We are a world-class company. In a world dominated by giants, cloud can only be a monopoly. It is crazy to think one idea can disrupt all. We now have to admit technology locks people in. Stop saying that innovation is for freedom. We must know data revolution can't be a progress for all. It is impossible to believe a cloud can be smart and open, and imagine the community can succeed as an alternative for changing the world. However, as an alternative for changing the world, the community can succeed, and imagine a cloud can be smart and open. It is impossible to believe data revolution can't be a progress for all. We must know innovation is for freedom. Stop saying that technology locks people in. We now have to admit one idea can disrupt all. It is crazy to think cloud can only be a monopoly. In a world dominated by giants, we are OVHcloud, a world-class company.
Hello. Good morning to everyone. It's a great pleasure, and we're very happy to greet you here today for OVHcloud Summit 2019. Year after year, there's more and more of you here. Today, in this room, we've changed the location. It's bigger this year, but also we're online with direct live streaming. This loyalty that you've shown to us is very important to us. So thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for your numerous presence here today. This edition of the Cloud Summit has a special perfume because 20 years ago, almost date to date, Octave founded OVH. For 20 years, the OVH story was written day after day with you, thanks to you, and we thank you. This story, yes, because it is a real epic story. It's an epic story that is the story of a company that's visionary, a company that's able to adopt bold technologies, but also to take turning points in industrial turning points that are unique, like the decision to build all our servers here in France, in the north, in our own factory. It's also the total disruption with the introduction of cool water cooling for our servers. Now, 15 years ago, and this is the real proof of a very early engagement for environmental respect. But above all, OVH is the fruit of our values, of strong values, of values of being open, of being transparent, values of free software, open software, ecosystems that are open, and above all, human values, incarnated by Octave himself and the entire Cloudbot family. The internet world has just celebrated its 50th anniversary. We have just blown out the 30 candles of the web. The smartphone is 12 years old. All of these innovations and many others have really disrupted our daily lives. And in the same way, OVH has never ceased evolving and changing. Originally, it was a host service and a telecom operator here in France. Now, we are a global player, which represents more than 70% of its revenues comes through cloud services. And to underline this evolution, this development, this transformation, OVH is changing its name. OVH is going to become OVHcloud. OVHcloud is the European leader as an alternative of the cloud in a world environment, because the smart cloud that we presented last year is a different type of cloud. It's an alternative cloud. It's a simple cloud. The digitalization of our interactions with our customers is one of our priorities. We have rethought the ergonomics of our enterprise infrastructures and to be simpler. And we're also going to work in other universes. It's a multi-local cloud. We are now on 4 continents, and our ambition is to be as close to you as possible, as close to our customers as possible. That's why we must improve our support, and we're now deploying a new model of global support with 4 levels, with differentiated assistance in order to respond more quickly, more efficiently to all our customers, regardless of their size or their activity. This is a cloud that is accessible. Our ambition is to provide to you the best price-performance ratio on the market. Our model, lean, frugal, ecologically responsible, and integrated industrially, will allow us to be the price leader by design. In partnership with the market leaders, we have completely renewed our entire range of servers to be even more powerful. Reversibility. We have a cloud that's reversible. Migrate your applications to the cloud. Should not imprison you in a proprietary model that is irreversible. The cloud must remain open. And this is one of the biggest commitments of OVH. For the last 18 months, we've been working with the European community to drafting a code of conduct on the portability of data. This code proves, among other things, that the cloud can and must be reversible. Because multi-cloud does not scare us, on the contrary. We believe that multi-cloud is the future of cloud services because you must always have the freedom of your choice. A transparent cloud. The protection of data has become a societal commitment. Europe, with the RGPD, has created powerful, ethical, virtual rules for the protection of private data, because personal data is something that a lot of people are interested in, and the value and the monetization of that data has created fortunes, maybe unwarranted, of certain actors with certain derivations that are not acceptable. In fact, the scandals of manipulation of the social networks show the need to guarantee the protection of data even for our democratic principles, for our democratic societies. In the same way, companies and for states themselves, the protection of data, the data of your customers, of the citizens, becomes a strategic challenge. It's even a question of national sovereignty. Unfortunately, the position of Europe is a position, as I said, it's ethical and virtuous, but it's not universal throughout the entire world. Certain nation states want to access and control data. Obviously, I can't prevent myself from citing the famous Cloud Act that a lot of people have been talking about. It's a tool that allows people to access data throughout the world, and I think it's legitimate to question whether it's not also ultimately a way to favor and promote the interests of national actors, the national interest. For numerous months, we've been participating in quite a few initiatives and projects to find solutions that will allow us to guarantee a cloud that is open, reversal, and transparent. And the list is long, but I'll mention just two of these. The first, in the domain of artificial intelligence, which is a domain in which we're investing a lot. And as you know, it is a societal challenge for the future. We are participating in the AI for EU, which is a group of 69 European enterprises that is created to develop a platform for solutions and applications based on artificial intelligence. But we must be careful to respect certain ethical principles. In the same way, with the IQ data companies, OVH is developing a platform so that the different actors can mutualize their data without any single actor being able to access the sensitive data of any other actor. And so we can see the outlook for this type of platform, because in healthcare, for example, we have to share information, but you have to be able to protect personal data as well. This is vital. Similarly, OVH, in the same spirit, has renewed its three big programs with a common point of programs of partnership that are open and without exclusivity. OVHcloud Startup Program is one of the first. As the name indicates, it's addressed for startups. And also, we have OVHcloud Marketplace, which is for software developers and SaaS players. And lastly, we have OVHcloud Partner Program, which is addressed particularly to system integrators, to managed service providers, and also web agencies. Now, if you're interested in any of these initiatives of this open cloud, then please don't hesitate to contact us. Sylvain and Alain, in a few minutes, are going to give further details on these programs for you. All of these initiatives are based on Octave's vision, that of the emergence of European solutions facing in the face of the American and Chinese hegemony. Now, a lot of people say that it's too late, that it's a big illusion, that it's in vain, but we believe the exact opposite. But it's clear that it's now that we must take a role. Now we must make our move. Our strong convictions, which I hope we can share with you today, is that Europe has all the means necessary. We have the talent, the skills, the solutions, the actors, the players, to emerge at last a digital channel that can rival all the other continents. We are working with the French government, with the European Commission, to come up with concrete proposals to create a dynamic for this channel. And the next legislative decisions in Europe and in France will be crucial. Having said that, I beg you to be witness. You have a role. You, the decision makers, you, the entrepreneurs, you, the leaders in business here in Europe, you must trust and have confidence in the European startups. Believe in the European solutions. They exist, and they are competitive. And with this European solidarity, we will all compete with the others, the other regions. For 20 years now, with you, thanks to your trust and confidence, OVH has grown. It has now become one of the leaders of cloud services in the world, and we thank you from the bottom of our heart. And please, you should know that all of the OVH teams are very proud. They are enthusiastic. They're mobilized. They are totally involved. Not complicated, but involved. They're involved to continue with you, and thanks to you, this fantastic adventure. So for the next 20 years, but even beyond that. And to conclude, as Octave often says, with you, thanks to you, it's going to rip things up seriously. Really, really seriously. Now, we have a very rich program for this morning. You'll have the chance to see Sylvain Auric and Alain Foucault, our Chief Security Officer and our CEO. And we also have Arnaud Cussier, who is the General of the Information Systems for the French Army. And he's going to talk about a cloud of confidence. But before that, we have the chance and the privilege to greet here today the Minister in charge of Digital Technology, Mr. Cédric O.
Alors, décidément, là, vous êtes... Oui.
I'm sorry, but I was playing football Tuesday night with Gérard Darmanin, and like all budget ministers, he was quite a challenger. So anyway, he says hello So thank you, Michel. Thank you, Octave, for inviting me today. Thanks to all of you. Hello to all of you. I'm very happy to be here today for the 20th anniversary of OVH and for the OVHcloud Summit, because we can see and feel through Michel's presentation and through the atmosphere of digital technologies today that through the cloud, we can see that things are coming to fore, as we see in digital markets and in digital technologies in the world in general. And if I want to start with this, it's really to tell you a story, my personal story over the last 2 years. I think before being nominated the digital minister 6 months ago, I was a counselor for the president and prime minister of France. And in that role, I was in charge of digital technologies, but my portfolio was a little bit bigger. I also was in charge of public companies and their public entities in which the French state has an interest, has a stakeholding. And that's a lot of companies in France that are under that situation. And so you might think there's not a big connection between the two, between big companies like Thales, EDF, Safran, et cetera, and on the other side, digital startup companies. We could think that that's two separate worlds. But in fact, no. In fact, no, because through this double portfolio, I had the opportunity to put my finger on a lot of things, and this was the case before, because for 3 years I was working at Safran, and so I could see the ferocity of the competition in the digital marketplace today, with big giants, notably in defense, the defense industry, but also in digital technologies purely. And even for myself, who had a vision that was quite broad in what was going on, it was very shocking. So we are in a global competition for technologies that is quite ferocious and with a great deal of inequality, with two major ensembles, the United States and China. And so one of the imperatives for Europe and France in particular is to be up to speed in this digital technology and competition. And why? Because we might say it's not so serious, but actually there are several reasons, lots of reasons. The first reason is basic. It's a question of jobs. Over the last few years, about 1/3 of the creation of jobs are related to technology in the United States. Now, in France, next year, the digital companies and startups in France will create 25,000 jobs. 25,000 jobs, that's 10% of the net creation of jobs in France. And so we can sense that in the battle for the digital technology, which involves the big companies as well as small startups, first there's a question of jobs. That's the first issue. And then there's a question of sovereignty, because we can feel today that in the applications that we use every day and in the companies that are taking more and more space in our daily lives, quite often these are American companies or Chinese companies. But it's not even a question of sovereignty. There's also the question of values. You all have, and I do as well, have an American, Chinese, or Korean smartphone. You all use American social networks. You all order food or taxis quite often on American applications. You all know better than I do that we are in a universe that is American or Chinese. Each time we abandon our own values because those companies these are not terms of use or conditions that are, well, these conditions are really based on American values or Chinese values. And so our values, I don't know whether ours are better or less good, but they're not the same. They're not the same values as the European in terms of protection of private life, data confidence, and that sort of thing. So when we are working in a world where we have players that are not European and they're taking all our space, we abandon what makes our values and our culture so important. This is our home. And this is the imperative for Europe. We have to be at our own level, at a competing level in the cloud, in technologies. As Michel said earlier, certain of our allies can maybe develop extraterritorial laws and impose things on us. So we must be at the level of that technological competition. What does that mean at the cloud level? Well, it means that we have to know where we're headed, and it starts with the state, the nation state. That's why we have decided to develop a cloud strategy at the state level with 3 circles. The first circle that we're going to do ourselves, and I heard the digital technology director for defense say that we are in a world where things are changing more and more quickly, and so the state must be fully up to speed in terms of this technological development. And it's a real challenge. We must not be surpassed, because for certain applications, we have to be able to develop our own cloud applications and our own cloud infrastructures, notably in OpenStack infrastructures, because we have to be able to control and master these technologies, even if it's not for a huge usage. We have to still be able to master this technology. The second circle, as we call it, is private cloud. And the third circle is the ability to use suppliers for the public cloud for usages that are less sovereign. So that's the first thing, the fact that the state has to be able to know where it is headed and where things are headed. The second thing is to have industrial players that are up to speed, and that's where OVH is so important, OVH and others in France. Now, why is it important? And I think at this stage we have to pay homage to Klava, because there was a time to the Klava family. Excuse me. So there was a while that the cloud was able to fend for itself. It would do it for itself and fend for itself, but they were not able. They had problems. And the real strength of OVH, and why is OVH so important for us? OVH and others as well, other French cloud suppliers. It's because profoundly, and I'm quite a liberal person, so I can say this. One of the first strengths of OVH is to be able to develop things itself, all by itself, without us. If OVH is strong, it's because OVH is competitive. And in a world such as ours, a world of globalization and global competition, the only viable solutions are those that you develop yourself. And you have to have a certain boldness, audacity, to say that a French player in Roubaix, of all places, could be able to compete with the international giants. But as I was saying, I was a counselor for the President of the Republic, and in that role, I met pretty much all of the major directors of technology. Mark Zuckerberg, Vice Chair of Airbnb, the heads of Google, etc. There are no reasonable people who are involved at the heads of the giants of technology, because you cannot be reasonable to succeed in that environment. So I think that we have to be thankful for OVHcloud to not have been reasonable and to have set up a European player in Europe, in France, that obviously doesn't have the size today, the systemic size of the big giants of cloud in the U.S., but has nonetheless been able to pull it off at their level. And it's not just OVH, because if we want to be able in France and Europe, because this really is a European question, if we want to deal with the problems of Europe and the extraterritorial issues that the U.S. and Americans and other countries are involved in, these are issues that concern all European countries, and I can assure you that the discussion is really based at the highest levels of the nation. And if we want to build a European solution, that means we have to create a European ecosystem. That's why it's so important that you're here today. That's why it's important that you work with OVH and others, because OVH on its own will not succeed. We're in a world where the SaaS space is requiring more and more customers to not worry about infrastructure on the one side and platform on another and services elsewhere. If we're not able to create a real industrial ecosystem that is fully European, with maybe taking little bricks here and there from outside Europe, maybe by creating collaborative partnerships to create a real ecosystem that in the end, obviously for the short term, of course it's at the short term, it's obviously simpler, but this is a competition that is not going to be won alone. It's a competition that will only be won through strangulation, in fact. And if we don't want to be strangled, we have to work together. The theory of the prisoner's game. In other words, either nobody talks and then we're all winners, or there's one person who breaks and then little by little everybody falls into the trap. And this is why I really wanted to be here today, because what the European cloud players are doing and what the European digital technology players are doing in Europe are very important. And this doesn't come from the state, obviously. It doesn't come from the government. Our job is to create conditions where investors can thrive. And so if tomorrow some of you need to do this, and that you can introduce and launch yourself on the stock market and launch yourself in a stock market that's really favorable to the technology startups, and it's to really help this technological revolution here in Europe. And now we ourselves don't have all of the levers. The levers are the private players who have those. The private players have the real levers. And the final word, because I don't want to spend too much time, and I know that Octave is really looking forward to playing guitar for you on the stage, so I'm not going to take more time than absolutely necessary. What this means. Should we focus on ourselves and refuse foreign players? Of course not. It doesn't mean that. But we believe in the government that there can be no strong and international ecosystem that would be capable of having a global competition unless it is international itself. And so we want foreign players to participate. We want to be the first country in Europe that has created data centers, because we've done actual tax modifications to allow this, so that when foreign players look at European countries and they want to set up data centers, they can do it in our countries because it's interesting. But this is something that has to be built in an approach of ecosystems. In order to build something of long term, we have to have foreign players as well. But what we want above all is that on the critical technologies, we are able ourselves as Europeans to have the final say, the final control. And this is true for another reason, because we have to know where we are coming from. And quite often, the states, the politicians, the government, they tend to think that all they have to do is describe things and it will make it so, and we'll automatically have global players on the global market in the cloud, and it'll work all by itself. No, that's not how things work. We have to know where we're coming from and where we are today and who we are. And we know that for certain applications, for SaaS applications, for example, there are no European players, no French or European players in SaaS services. So we have to be able to create alliances with foreign players in order to develop offers that respect our values, that offer the same quality of service, because at the end of the day, our customers insist on this high quality of service. But what we believe is that in creating these offers and creating intelligent alliances, we will be able to have the quality of service and the resilience, and also have those values that are so important for us. But to do this, to be able to be at this level of the discussion, we wouldn't be able to be at this level and to have this negotiation, because quite often these are difficult negotiations, but we're in a world that's not easy. But you have to have players in technology, in industry, who are there and playing the game. And that's why the 20th anniversary of OVH is so important. And thanks to Octave, thanks to you, as Octave said, things are going to rip up. They're going to rip it up.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I'd like to thank all of our customers too, because we now have over 1.5 million customers throughout the world. That's an incredible figure, and we're all extremely proud of that. Now, in my job, very often people say to me, but what's your objective? And so to be honest with you and to try and please everyone, my answer is always the same. I always say, well, it's a little bit more than the figure that you've got in mind at the moment. Now, it seems easy to say, but I think it's far more complicated to implement. And if at the end of the day, there's one thing that we do in OVH, one thing that really drives us in the way in which we face this challenge, for us, it's not a question of just selling. It's more a question of saying, how can we help businesses to buy us? Now, that's not just a figure of speech. I think it's more of a belief. We believe that the market's out there. We believe that companies want to go there too. But at the same time, we've got to do our utmost to make sure that we can help all businesses so that they can find our products quite easily and so that they can use them just as easily. The digital transformation concerns everyone, and historically, our customers are what we would call tech natives. But I think that the field of what's possible is far broader than that. And I think we've got to work on this on a daily basis so that, yet again, we can improve our approach so that all of the companies, all businesses, whatever their size may be, whatever their technological heritage may be, so that they can all have access to the promise that we are offering them for the cloud, this alternative promise. Now, in order to do this, we have started working on 3 main projects. The first one, which might seem quite simple, because in our approach, as you all know, simple is the watchword, we're going to transform our products into solutions. Again, it might seem very simple like that, but for OVH, it might be just a small step for mankind that's looking for a digital transformation, but for us, it is a huge step. And so we've started all of this work, and I would invite you to go and have a look at our website. You look at the enterprise page, which shows the solutions that we are currently working on so that we can provide solutions for all of our customers. It's easier to read. It's maybe easier for you to understand as well on the website. Secondly, we're trying to reinforce all of our organization with all of the people that we're recruiting throughout the world so that we can accompany our customers, so both before the sale, so all of the design phases, but also afterwards. And Michel mentioned that earlier on, the 4 levels of support, because that's an extremely important aspect of what we do. And we've got to continue to help our customers once the infrastructure has been installed so that we can advise them on how they can optimize what we've provided, so that we can give them our firm beliefs and we can get their feedback and move on from that. And then finally, the last project that we're working on, you this morning have heard us very often talking about participation and ecosystems, and that's our last partner project. It's quite obvious that we're not going to be able to do this on our own. And we've got to be able to give access to the OVH promise to everyone, to the largest number, whatever the technological culture may be of businesses. And we can't get there alone. And that's why we've got to work with partners, integrators, advisory boards, companies, consultancies, who know far better than us sometimes the heritage of all of these major companies or startups or even other ETIs. And so it's with them that we're going to be able to work and better serve everyone. And so to illustrate this, we're going to be talking to 3 different partners. And I'm delighted to welcome, to start this, to get the ball rolling, Jérôme Siméon, who comes from Capgemini. He's a member of the executive board of Capgemini board, and he's also the CEO of Capgemini France. Hi, Jérôme, and again, thank you very much for coming here today for this summit. Now, the OVH style is a little bit direct, so let's say straight away what we're going to be doing. Capgemini and OVH on the same stage to talk about the business market 2 or 3 years ago, that would not have been envisageable at all. So what's changed since then? Well, I think that the Capgemini style is also to be a little bit direct and answer straight. So 2 things, I think. First of all, our customers within Capgemini, our cloud customers, choose us for 2 things. First of all, because we have a 100% cloud strategy, and we made an original choice when, if we compare to our competitors, we don't necessarily want to have data centers, just use partners like OVH. And then secondly, we're also along the whole chain of value, so both with the diagnosis phase, with tools like EPM, migration as well for applications with our factory, which is an operational model, and then other packaged models too. Now, 2 years ago, it wouldn't have been envisageable. It wouldn't have been possible. We weren't ready, either of us, I don't think. And we had to have a shared will. Each of us had to travel along our own pathway. And today, I'm so delighted that OVH is one of our main partners for cloud services in the same way as Microsoft, Amazon, or Google are. So one thing that struck me, and I think is really important, it's the way in which the teams have worked together. And I think that your input and the way in which you've helped us to provide solutions has been so important. On a daily basis, though, what does that mean, and what do we do in our partnership with all of our teams? Well, first of all, there's one thing I wanted to underline, and that's the industrialization effort that has been made over the last 3 years by OVH. OVH today is the first European player on the cloud, but also OVH offers top quality services which really do fit in with the demands of our customers, whether it be very big customers or even smaller companies. So that's one of the main aspects. And all of the work that we have done together was to anchor our know-how, and all of this is materialized by the fact that, as you know, we have been able to win some really good projects, big programs like the Agency for Services and Payments, so that's everyone who pays for the Common Agricultural Policy, like the ASIC as well, which is the French Agency for Digital Services in Health. And so today, they're real success stories for us, which have enabled us to go further, or force us to go further, and we're working as well so that we can help the state so that it can think about this sovereign cloud, and we're helping the Ministry for Defense and also the ASIC organization as well. So there are 2 things, 2 parts of a wonderful adventure that has started, and we're so proud to be doing it with OVH. Yes, now we're delighted with these first success stories, and it's just the proof that our model is working as well. So thank you very much for that, and well done to everyone who's been involved. For the coming months, the coming years, what are your expectations with regards to OVH? Well, there are several. First of all, you have got to continue to be financially attractive and competitive because that's the foundation of everything. That's the case today. And I think that one important point is that a little bit like Capgemini, you've got to keep your independence. You've got to remain independent. That's your strength today because that enables you to be agile. It enables you to control your data centers. That's a point which really is essential to all of us. And then the second point that I was going to start, we're not going to just limit ourselves to IaaS as well so that we can be more competitive in a broader sense. And then the third point, as far as we're concerned, is that we've got to continue to be able to build things together, to create a network together so that we can make progress in France, but also on a European level, because our shared ambition goes far beyond France, and we've got to continue to innovate in France, though, nevertheless. Thank you very much, Jérôme. Thank you very much for having been with us today. Thank you. So another concrete example with Capgemini is the transformation going from products to solutions, and we found the right balance in our relationship. And I think that the OVH culture is very different to Capgemini, but I think we're complementary. Now, to continue on the same theme and in the same term, I'd like to welcome today Thibault de la Bouderie, who comes from Deloitte, and Béatrice Arroy, and she's going to be interviewing him. So we'll continue together, and we'll start talking to another one of our partners. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Thibault. Good morning, Béatrice. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for being here with us this morning. Thank you. Now, Thibault, you are one of the associates at Deloitte, which is a leading company in audit and professional services, and more particularly, you're in charge of the Digital Factory. So could you maybe tell us a little bit more about Digital Factory? What is it? Now, the Digital Factory, before it's a technology, it's above all a team of passionate people that started up 5 years ago because we understood that we had to evolve, that our customers were expecting far more from us than PowerPoint presentations and Excel spreadsheets. They wanted far more than that. And so that's why 5 years ago we started with a partnership with OVH because we wanted to work on a European cloud project, and we created this platform with you, and that's what Sylvain was talking about earlier on. Now, the Digital Factory today delivers robotic solutions directly to managed services as part of processes, and it can also manage licenses and with an automated system. That's a major challenge for most DSIs and customers, and so we operate with the right level of service. Now, when we spoke about this previously, you said that we weren't the only suppliers of the Digital Factory Cloud. Now, why did you choose us? And maybe say how OVH could give you an added value for your customers. Now, as the minister was saying earlier on, we're also in an open system where we have several players on the same platform that enables us to benefit from different services too. And we chose OVH because for us it was important to have an offer that was completely transparent. Customers asked us as well to be able to benefit from a player that wasn't part of the Cloud Act for some of the sensitive operations. And in the Digital Factory, we have a platform where we have cyber intelligence and cybersecurity, so the challenge is really high. The stakes are high for us, and that's why we chose OVH. We also chose OVH because we wanted to be able to co-build solutions with you so that we'd be able to have made-to-measure solutions for contracts that are quite specific, because sometimes we have to do tailor-made projects with our customers, and that's what we were able to do together. Now, that's interesting that you're talking about co-building, co-construction, because collaboration long-term is the foundation of the OVH Cloud partnership that Michel and Sylvain mentioned earlier on. Now, Thibault, I have one last question for you, because it would seem that we're going to be continuing to co-build it together. Well, I certainly hope so. Could you maybe tell us how you see the future? Yes, of course. Now, we're co-building with you, not only with you, though. We also worked with Data IQ and Deloitte. We did the same things with other players like OIPass. And I hope that in the future, we're going to be more and more working in ecosystems. And one thing that seems extremely important to underline is that the organizations that are not committed, or so they can have a positive impact on society and organizations that are not involved in vigilant technologies or vigilance for technologies, because a lot of the energy globally is consumed by technologies, more and more by data centers, as you know. So we've got to use industrial systems, and we've got to have shared platforms so that we can avoid building data centers for each of the companies. I think that's a major challenge, and that's also what gives us the DNA and the value for the digital factory, because that gives us an ecological way of working, and it's security by design. So I'd encourage you to look into this, because earlier on Michel was talking about a water cooling system, which is quite unique. You've got a strategy for the obsolescence of your servers, which is quite interesting, and that's fantastic for a partner like OVH. So communicate, talk about that, but also give precise indicators so that we can see the impact of what we're consuming using your infrastructure, so that as well we can show and prove this added value and impact. It's true that eco-responsibility is something that's extremely important for OVH. Michel mentioned that, and I'm sure that we'll have to work on this even more in the future so that we can give you those fantastic indicators that we're talking about. In any case, thank you very much, Thibault. Thank you for your recommendations. Thank you very much for your trust as well. And now we're delighted to be able to welcome our third partner, who is Benoît Moron, who comes from Scala. He's going to be interviewed by Caroline Comé-Fregnaud. So hello, everyone, and hi, Benoît. Maybe you could tell us about Scala in a few words. First of all, I'd like to say hello. Hello, everyone. Hi, team. Hello to the team also that's watching us online, live. So Scala, what's Scala exactly? Now, after the small companies that we saw earlier on, Capgemini, Deloitte, with a biggie, Scala is a French company based in Marseille for digital transformation. We are a regional company, like OVH is. We have offices in Marseille, Lyon, Paris, Amiens, and Tunis. And our aim is to, on the one hand, create new digital uses with digital experiences, with digital factories that have been outsourced. And then the second activity is to try and transform IT for our customers by rolling out cloud solution or hybrid cloud solutions and using OVH each time. And our customers are big SMEs and key accounts throughout the country. So your company is growing as well. Talk about your relationship with OVH, maybe. So how does it work? When did it start? And how's it evolving? We started our relationship about 3 years ago, and it took off straight away. Very successful from the onset. Very strong growth as well, and huge acceleration throughout 2019. We started with mainly our private cloud offer and products, and we created a whole range of services. We're currently creating services for our public cloud as well. And that's what enabled us to take off immediately, was that we found that we had shared DNA. And in Scala, we like the human values, we like technology, and we're very ambitious but humble as well. And we think that you're the same in OVH. It was the same thing with your sales teams. And so we seemed to fit together, and that's why we were so successful straight away. And it wasn't sufficient, though, as you can imagine. We had to introduce ourselves. We had to get to know each other. OVH showed us their offers. We showed our service offers as well. And very quickly, we were able to organize what type of business we could do together. And so how are we going to do it now? How do we do it today so that we can win contracts together? We work hand in hand with the commercial teams, and we try and detect opportunities right through to the closing phase, and there is a really close relationship between the commercial and sales teams. And it's an opportunity for me today to say thank you and say hi to our super team with Alexandre Lelouch. Maybe the team is out here. Okay, a round of applause for everyone. Maybe you could take your shirts off so that we can see who you are. And the account manager that follows us, and our excellent legal advisor as well. And all of that works because the team's fantastic, and it's supported by Sylvain as well, Sylvain Rouy. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to all of you. So the fact that we're so close in our business, all of that works really well. And we've got to sell our products, though, if we want it to work. And as Michel Paulin said, we've got fantastic products with a great market position. And so that's fantastic. We've created services as well, design, architecture, migration. Also with the 24/7 IT services and hosting. We've got the OVH super offer, which means that we're right there in line with what the market requires. We've just got to continue now. We're not just saying, well, it's okay to have created those offers. We're now investing either on our own or co-investing with OVH so that we can create new products. OVH is now certified HDF as well as a host, and they've asked us if we could also become the host or with management services. And so we're going to be creating products that are going to be dedicated to health with certification as well, so from end-to-end certification. And maybe some of you may have seen OVH is stopping its cloud desktop, and now we have going to take that over, and we're going to manage it on the OVH architecture, not elsewhere, obviously. And in order to continue to provide this offer, and then the technical teams alone or with them are working on various different types of solutions like Kubernetes and VMware and HCX. Now, we've just launched our new partnership program, which is based on 3 pillars, so that we provide each other with business information and also support that is suited to our partners. From your point of view, Benoit, what is the strength of that program? I'm going to talk about my experience because I've been, you might not realize it, but I've been working in the business for 18 years now. It might not look like I have, but I've seen so many, dozens of partner programs, and we've signed so many partnership program contracts, and some of them we've used every day, some of them we haven't, but they're more or less the same. And it's almost as if the chain managers sleep together and all have babies because everybody does the same thing. And so you've got your back margin program, your margin program, then you've got the lead generation program, that famous lead generation program, something that you've all got experience of, I imagine, and then training and certification. That's part of every program. When we started up working with OVH, we said, okay, that's the model we've got in mind. And the answer was, no, there won't be a margin. There won't be any discounts. There won't be any back margins. There won't be anything at all like that. You're going to be creating your offers because our offers are good. Create your own value as well. But if you're good, maybe we'll send you some leads, and it should happen like that during the first year. Now, to start with, it makes you think, oh dear, what's happening here? You don't feel very reassured. But then we moved on, we got over that, we believed in it, and we thought, okay, let's give this a try, and it's worked. And so on the one hand, this decision to create our own added value is better than just selling somebody else's services. The leads really did then come in. And if there's one thing that you have to remember about the relationship with OVH, other people will make promises but not follow through. OVH promises nothing but provides. Now, that's a fantastic experience. And now, if we start to dream about the future, what can we do with you so that we can go that step further? Well, are you sure? If I ask of you something, will you give it to me? Well, I think that the team loves the fact that we can continue with OVH for its international development. That would be great. Okay, well, fantastic. We'll follow you if you follow us. Thank you very much, Benoit. Thank you. Thank you to you all.
Sylvain, I love what you're doing with the companies today. 5 years ago, we launched our new enterprise client segment, and it works. Yeah, I think we're finding the right balance between tech, performance, and the accompaniment of the big companies. But we should not forget our historic companies, digital tech. That's my thought, Alain. Okay, Alain? Hello to everyone. Today, OVHcloud is entered a pretty limited club, a pretty exclusive club. It's a club of high-level infrastructure operators. And for us, there's no prefab solution. quite often we have to invent something new, and that's good. We experiment, we test, we challenge. Sometimes we make mistakes, but we have to restart and do research. That's really the DNA of OVH. Now, our engineers, what they do is they set up partnerships, and with those partnerships, both with research institutes and labs, NCRS, and other strategic partners, the CNRS, the INRIA, and the Institute of Mean Telecom, and others, they, with them, guarantee our technological independence. And that's very important for the future of OVH Cloud. Now, to innovate, to play, we have to have a playing field. So we created our own unique playing field. We created an experimental lab. In this lab, for experimentation, we test and we innovate a lot more quickly than might otherwise be possible. This experimental lab is the preferred place for Octave. He spends his day setting up and disassembling servers. We don't really know what's going on. It's his secret, but if you look at his Twitter feed, you get a few ideas. The results of this innovation and research strategy, just to give you a little idea, over the last 18 months, we have submitted 50 families of patents throughout the world on subjects as diverse as artificial intelligence, energy security, networks, and even computing. Now, these patents are a way to defend our strategic innovations and to defend you when you use them. Now, most of these innovations are shared with the open source community, so we remain very open about this. But what's the most important is that these innovations are very pragmatic, things that you can benefit from every day in using our products. You use them when you use our products. Now, through our products, now let's talk about that for a minute. Technological innovations and new ideas, there are a lot all the time. A lot. Now, I'm going to focus on the most important among them, maybe the most exciting among them, universe by universe. And we're going to start with the SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises on communication and collaboration. Now, there's an awful lot of functions that over the weeks and months to come will be made available, but I'm going to just talk about a few of these. First, we're going to make available cloud web flavors based on performance and functions. But we're also going to have dashboards on our websites and even a tool which we call the Website Coach, which is going to provide recommendations to improve your performance or the efficiency of your site or of your internet presence. More software stacks to construct websites that even have more impact, greater impact for your business. And last but not least, a marketplace that, as I'm sure you can understand, through OVHcloud, will be an alternative and different type of marketplace, not just in terms of its business model, but also in terms of the technologies that are made available. Now, on this marketplace, our technological partners will be able to make available software and services in SaaS mode, operated by them on the OVH Cloud platforms. But we'll talk about that very shortly. I want to talk now about the infrastructure offers, the servers, and the best way to talk about that, rather than I tell that story, is to listen to a customer, because customers are the best people to talk about our servers.
Hi, my name is John Randamonte, and this is Seth Maddox, and we're the founders of Apex Hosting.
Apex Hosting is one of the oldest and largest Minecraft hosting companies in the world. We're actually in the business of building businesses. Apex Hosting's mission statement is to provide the highest quality of hardware and support while having a focus on education.
Over the past 12 months, we've grown 500%. OVHcloud has been a great partner for us with their global data centers, allowing us to scale up over the past 7 years, starting with just a single location.
We went from growing about one server every 3 to 6 weeks to about 5 to 8 servers every single day. So we've been able to scale effectively with OVHcloud's network growth as well. Our industry is focused around a group of people whose core purpose is to modify the game that they play on. This means that they're naturally hackers at their core. Our networks are constantly under attack as a result of these people trying to test out their new skills. OVHcloud's DDoS protection across all servers has been an invaluable aspect of our ability to grow and to stay online as we grow. So they've given us a strong foundation to be able to learn and grow. And as their network grows, we're able to grow with it.
We use a variety of products from OVHcloud, mostly in the bare metal space. We use either their infrastructure servers or their newer game server line, which has been a great asset to our company. OVHcloud has allowed us great freedom in running our business because we know that the servers that we need are always going to be available.
They're the easiest to work with, the most cost-effective to work with, and they're the only ones that actually provide the services we need without having to go elsewhere. We actually have a physical location in Minecraft that you can go to, which is a digital representation of our company. We have an office, a data center, and a place to come out and try our services. So if you actually want to come see OVHcloud in Minecraft, you can come see us at play.apexmc.co.
As I said, they speak really well. As Sylvain says, no one speaks better. Now, for the bare metal servers, the reason why they're so powerful is simple. You have access to all of the performance and resources of the machine, and you can manage it yourself upon request. The only difference is that it's in cloud mode. It's consumed in cloud mode. You don't need physical servers in racks in your site or to have a hoster that's going to manage this in your place. It's a way you consume this in cloud mode upon request, rapidly and flexibly through an app. Now, in 2019, we did not waste our time. This year, and up till the end of the year, we will renew all of our bare metal servers, from the smallest to the largest. We're going to cover all the needs. It's going to go from VDI to artificial intelligence, through gaming, virtualization, storage, databases, big data, video rendering, web, and even company workflows. Now, to do this, we have the bare metal range of servers, which is probably the most complete range on the market. We have the Rise product, which is a very attractive product in terms of price without compromising on performance, all the way up to the AG range for the more intensive needs of corporations. Now, through this AG range for the needs of companies, we're going to introduce within the next few weeks, next month to be precise, the latest technologies that are both zero scalable to what we call Cascade Lake, and the EPIC processors for the ROM range. Greater density in GPU. All of that is possible thanks to our technology and thanks to our data center infrastructure. But beyond the hardware, to support all of these new usages, in the same time that we're going to introduce these new ranges, we're going to introduce a lot more functionality. The first is going to be confidential computing, which is going to allow you to create your own enclaves that are encrypted, isolated in terms of hardware, in which the data is protected even when used. And for this, we use the Dentel technology called XGS. The second example, as we have, SGX. And with the doubling of the bandwidth here, we're going to continue to improve the bandwidth and flow for our servers. Now, for the advanced infra and AG servers, we are going to move all of our servers and connect them all to M times 10 giga and 5 giga, with the increase in the bandwidth also for the private network as well as the public network as we set up and deploy the new architectures. And one thing that we're very close to is there will be no invoicing based on the volume of traffic, something that's very close to our heart. I can see that this pleases a lot of you, and everybody, in fact. So one of the things that we're very proud about is that reversibility of data means you can put your data with us, but you can also remove them when you want without it costs you an arm and a leg. The second functional it was what we call OVH link aggregation, or OVA. It's a term that means that we're going to give you the flexibility to manage the connectivity between the servers and the network. In other words, if you have more interfaces, one in the public, one, for example, in the private, currently that's a fixed configuration, but in the future you'll be able to have all of your networks in the public or in the private, or a mix that you want to define, that we might define by default, with all of the flexibility that you need. Once again, you can applaud. And always through the API. Now, how's this going to help you? Well, it's going to help the resilience, and also it's going to improve the useful bandwidth. And this will be extended to the public network. For now, it's just on the private network, but we're going to extend it very quickly to the public network as well. Now, the servers for storage, the storage servers, the network, that's the base of the cloud. That's the foundation on which we are based. And this foundation is something that we sell through the bare metal servers, but it's something that we keep as well to create our public cloud. In order to launch the OVHcloud public cloud, all you need to do is you'll be able to launch deployment or development of applications instantly, rapidly, simple, and automatically. And we want to go all the way to be able to accompany you in this public cloud in your growth, so that you can move straight to production. Now, the most important thing in order to do that for you is to be compatible with the deployment ecosystems and operation ecosystems. And so for us, our priority is to continue to add to the user experience, but also add to the standard AP supports, whether it's OpenStack or Kubernetes or for storage servers in the cloud. We're going to continue to advance. And the list of advances for the cloud is very, very long, and there's two things I want to talk about. One is compatibility with a model that's called OpenStack RevStack, which makes compatible with the deployment ecosystem more simple. And the second thing is something that a lot of people have been waiting for, is the capacity to be able to access your object storage through S3 APIs. And I assure you that we're not becoming WVS, but we are using Swift open source technologies to manage our infrastructure for objects, the storage of objects. And this open source technology adds the API S3 technologies. So I'm very happy to introduce this in an open source mode. So last year, I announced a few beta products, new products, and just wanted to give you a little update on this. I talked about the support of Kubernetes managed clusters, and we launched last April these managed Kubernetes clusters, and it's something that works very well with continuous augmentation. So it's moving on to the cruising speed now, and it was available in 2 regions, in France and Canada, most recently. And so it's now, today I can announce that we're going to extend this to 7 regions throughout the world, in Europe, in North America, and in the Asia-Pacific region, so that you can use it everywhere in the OVH cloud. And we're going to continue to complete this managed Kubernetes offer. And one of the things that we're going to launch very soon in the coming weeks is a private registry that will allow you to store and manage your images in private mode, both through Kubernetes, but also for different types of public cloud services. There's lots of wonderful surprises that are going to come online for Kubernetes, but what I want to really encourage you to do is to participate in the labs, in the beta and the alpha versions, to test these functions, and also to give us feedback so that you can participate in the creation of this roadmap, participate in the creation of these new products. The most exciting, I think, probably in these public cloud offers is the ability that you will have very soon, it's an alpha since about 2 weeks now, to use bare metal nodes as of your Kubernetes clusters. Now, this allows you to add performance of bare metal to the flexibility and the portability and the interoperability of Kubernetes clusters. And that I'll just give you a little scoop. If we execute things as we plan to execute them, we will be the #1 on the market with this functionality. No one else on the market has it, not even the giants that we were talking about earlier. The same, I'll never be able to stick to my 20 minutes allotted to me. The same bare metal instances are available also in OpenStack, and for that we use an open source technology once again. It's an alpha for now. It will be available in production by early 2020, beginning of 2020. Last year, again, I announced another beta version that was the ability to deploy big data clusters. And the same thing here. Well, the same thing we've done. It's available since last February on the website. You can now deploy completely automatically and secured Adobe clusters on 7 continents in less than 1 hour. In OVHclouds, that is possible. Those who already worked on Adobe know that to work on big data open clusters is a big exploit. It's quite a feat. So this is going to be available in 7 regions in Europe and in North America in the open public cloud. Most of our products are deployed really to meet the needs of companies in terms of performance, intensive use, resilience, and confidence. The most well-known product in that category is what we call the hosted private cloud. For old customers, it was used to be called MPCC, and so this is based on VMware SDTC stacks. So this is an offer as service. It is an environment that's quite complete in terms of functionalities and is enriched by additional functionalities through the VMware system. And we're going to continue to improve and complete this offer. It's a real bestseller, not just on the corporate side, but also for small and medium-sized enterprises. And the roadmap continues for this product with three additional elements. The first, we will have by the beginning of next year, we're going to have a new entry-level offer because you can launch on the cloud as a small player. You don't have to be a big enterprise. And the second thing, and this is in the top of the range now, we're going to broaden the range of converged storage with the vSAN technologies. And we're going to also propose, and this is a real scoop here, we're going to propose a storage function that will be completely resilient, full HA, with the NATAP technologies. Now, OVH over the past few years has engaged in a process of certification. Now, it's not the most amusing subject, but it's something that we do because we certify our data centers and our products, but we do it in such a way as to be as transparent as possible with you, to show that the OVH infrastructure is solid and that we're serious in the way we operate our products. Now, this year we have extended this certification for the hosting of health data with bare metal. Before, you only had it with private cloud. But the reason we did this is that we wanted to better respond to the usage cases in health. And in certain cases, there was a real need to have a bare metal offer that was richer. And we've done this now. It's done. The second thing, which is probably more complicated, even if HTS is not uncomplicated, we have engaged in the certain cloud certification. Now, for those of you who know this LUNC certification, it's not the easiest qualification to achieve. In fact, I'd say the opposite. But we are very happy to have launched this process. And just to give you a bit of information, things are moving very, very well. So we hope to be able to announce that we are completely qualified SecNum Cloud within the reasonable time frame. Right now, things are underway. Things are progressing smoothly, and so that's already quite an important milestone. The We have two new offers to answer this need for security and trust on enterprise resources. The first, around databases. Enterprises want to migrate their databases more and more, which used to be an SQN proprietary system, towards open source offers and also in the cloud. So this is exactly the issue that we wanted to address. We are offering, as of today, it's now available. We are offering you the ability to host your databases, your SQL databases at large scale in the OVH cloud on the basis of PostgreSQL technologies. And you can see that there are demonstrations of these migrations live that you can see. And in the same service, in the same spirit, for the needs of collaboration and messaging, we, with dedicated servers, with totally privatized clusters, we have offer you the ability to have access to a service of trusted exchange. So the exchange technology, obviously, operated by OVHcloud in France in our data centers and designed for big companies. The portfolio of bare metal products and offers is something that's being enriched, and it will allow us to do something that we've not been able to do up till now. We're going to be able to deliver not just unit servers, but cluster mode servers. In other words, as a big company, you'll be able to consume tens or hundreds of servers in one single stroke. And the objective is to consume not just at the unit level, but at the cluster level. And we want to do this with standard APIs. In an OpenStack Ironic system, like we're talking about for the public cloud, they can also be used to deliver these servers in cluster mode. And the interest here is that the technology partners will be able to use exactly the same functionality to deliver to you different PaaS or SaaS solutions in OVH dedicated clusters managed by them, directly integrated into the OVH cloud. Now, the good news is that we've already run tests with some of these partners. Some of these tests are currently underway. I'm not announcing the product today, but the tests are currently underway in the famous experimental data center lab that we talked about. So as promised, as you can see, this is a very rich year in innovations, regardless of where you are or who you are in this room, whether you're a developer, a starter, an SME, an enterprise, or even a public service institution, you can find at OVHcloud these solutions and the products that really will allow you to manage your digital transformation towards the cloud. Thank you very much.
Now, I don't have a second presentation ready for you today, but as we saw, sovereignty and data sovereignty and the cloud of trust really is a strategic issue, and nobody is in a better position to talk about this than the Rear Admiral Arnaud Coustillère, who is at the head of the digital DG within the Ministry for the Armed Forces. So a warm welcome to the Vice Admiral. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today, and I'd like to thank OVH. Thank you for enabling me to talk about my experience and talk about my responsibilities within the ministry. I'd like to reassure you I'm not going to have a speech that's going to be very technical because, to use your words, I come from core business within the Ministry for the Armed Forces. I'm a sailor, I'm an operational person, and so I have been working on cyber defense of the Army between 2011 and 2017, because you know that for cyber defense, we're not just talking about defense, we're also talking about the offensive side as well. And so when the president talks about the enemy, we have to then put strategies into place. And so after that period, the minister said to me, would you like to take over a department in IT so that you can transform it into a digital department? Now, I'm going to talk about the reason for this. This new DG is strategic, based on the Crédit Agricole basis, so linked directly to a board of directors and linked to the transformation of the army, but in a digital aspect. So we've got to go towards more innovation, and I think that for those of you who are listening, Florence Paolini used the key word, which is innovation. And innovation for a ministry like ours, which is not very open to the world and civil society, because the fewer customers we have, the better it is for us, because our end customers are those that we've got to neutralize, unfortunately, and do away with. So our criteria are maybe not the same as the business criteria that you would use. And so my role today is to be a little bit like a conductor in a complicated organization. We work with 4 roadmaps. Governance, first of all, where we are trying to seek more agility, and a roadmap based on technology with a complete upgrade of all of our networks so that we can have zero trust networks with an extremely high digital probability, and the networks are very closed, very little open to the outside world. Now we've got a 220,000 workstation network, so it's huge. And if we want to undergo this digital transformation, we've got to learn to open up to the outside world. And for us, that's a major challenge, because there are parts of our network that will never be open to the outside world, and we are separated physically as well. So that roadmap is very important. Third aspect concerns data. I'm the administrator for the data in the ministry, and so now that I've learned how to protect and defend data, I've now got to try and enhance it, share it, use it, and at the same time I've got to remain within that climate of confidence. And then the fourth roadmap concerns human resources, and one of the drivers of this transformation and the changes in our digital function is that we've got to find the right skills. We've got to be able to keep a high level of competencies and skills so that we can use cloud technologies and big data where it's extremely rare and it's extremely difficult to find the right people. Now, from all of that, from all of those aspects, today, what do we do? Well, MinArm is a huge organization. We spend 3.5 billion in investments every year in our IT. A lot of things concern our defense businesses, but a lot also spent within the ECN and also based on innovation. And you will have noticed that the Ministry of Defense has created an innovation agency so that we can open up even more. And we have spent 700 million euros per year on R&D, and that money is going to be increased to 1 billion very soon. And there are lots of processes to help startups so that we can use processes which are far more rapid so that we can co-fund projects as well. We're also a major player of diversity, and I think that's one of the main characteristics in comparison to the big companies that also have 300,000 employees. We have got a host of different fields, jobs. We are also a combat entity, so that means that we have submarines. It's very complicated to organize submarine than it is an aeroplane. We've got far more lines of code. We've got fighter planes, boats. We have armed forces throughout the world. We also intervene where there is no infrastructure, where we've actually got nothing in the middle of the desert. And so you don't have 5G, you don't have 4G, you don't have 3G. And so you've got to be able to make the technologies work nevertheless. And at the same time, we have to nourish and clothe all of the people who work for us. We've got hospitals, we've got hotels, we've got schools. And so it's that whole wide range of logistics and all of those jobs that make our organization so complex. And we've got about 20,000 people who work in IT for us to organize all of that. And so the new situation now is that we've got to orchestrate all of that, have access to innovation, and also prepare the changes so that we can have a change in scale towards artificial intelligence. And all of that means that we've got to have the right data. On the whole, the ministry today doesn't necessarily use all of the data that it has available. And although we've got a lot of data coming from surveillance, we have very little in other fields, not because we don't have a policy for capitalizing on it or storing it or using the data. Our roadmap, therefore, is a blank sheet of paper for the moment, and that's in a way a strength. So we've got to deal with data, but in order to have data, we have to move towards AI, and we've got to know where that data is going to be stored, who we're going to share it with, because we're talking about big data. And to open up, you also have to use external innovation. You've got to have zones where you can store data. That data today is considered as being a shared good of the organization. And if we talk about the common good, we've got to be able to use it, but also protective. And these are things which are brand new for us. And in order to protect data when you store it, it's not just a question of having a level of cybersecurity and knowing who you're storing it with. cybersecurity with major foreign partners is exactly the same as the type of security that you'd have with French partners. So there's a whole different scale and notion of cybersecurity. We have to have a relationship based on trust, and trust is something that can be created, built over time, but it's also represented by the legal framework that we would like to have and achieve. And then secondly, what we call the Committee of Destiny. Now, it's very important when we look at this idea of sovereignty, when we want to try and find or achieve partners of confidence. We don't have to redefine the boundaries as we would have done in the physical world, but we have to find ourselves in a situation where we have to think of autonomy, independence, and strategy. And one of the aspects of this is really important, and that's trust. And that's why in the initiative tech.gouv, which has been made by the government, we've taken over the responsibility, or we've been given the responsibility with our friends from the DINU and DINSIC, who are represented here, to study what this dedicated cloud is going to be like. And for me, this dedicated cloud will be in addition to a private cloud that we use, on which we'll put all of our classified data, about 20% of all of our applications. There'll also be the external cloud as well, with the data from the Ministry of Defense, because that's got to be the most resilient within the French state, because we think that none of our data all of our data is sensitive, and so we're not a ministry like any other, and that means that the regalian heart of the state, where you have OIVs and where you have all sorts of other ministries as well that we've got to protect, all of our data is not something that we can just give to anybody, or that we can just give to anybody openly like that. And so it's a change in paradigm, a paradigm shift, and we are really aware of this quite recently, really. And my friend Pierre Guinetier from Skyrock as well was talking about this. These are all things that are brand new, but they're very important. Our data is not something we can just give to anyone, and so that means that it has to be stored in the areas that we find of interest. And so we've got to use all of the innovation that comes from C3 and the public cloud, and so we've got to be able to give data for a small time, be able to take it back as well, take the best of technology, use what was in the past with a partner of trust in SaaS mode, and but maybe we can have a SaaS mode which would be completely in an environment of trust. And that's a model that has to be created so that we can impose it upon our friends in the GAFA, because they have got to respect their customers too. And when we talk to the state, well, we're not just talking about a customer, we're talking about the representative of citizens. And so you mustn't confuse this idea of citizens and customers. And so they're very important issues. That's what we're working on at the moment for C2. And if you want to keep an image in mind, for me, C2 is this dedicated cloud. It's a partner of trust, and it's our digital border that I'm opening up to the outside world, and I'm involving partners. I'm involving partners because they'll be better than us in terms of the way in which they're going to evolve. They're going to be better for innovation. They'll offer me so many things for EVOPs that I wouldn't be able to do on my own in-house. And so it's something which is going to help me. It's something which is going to be key in my digital transformation. I can involve about 80% of the applications in the ministry for the armed forces, for things that are going to be used for combat, and that's going to enable us to save time and also have a better digital foundation. And we can push these boundaries by putting sensors out there, sensors which are going to help us to attract the best technology. So that's what I wanted to explain to you very quickly. That was the message I wanted to get across. We're working with a group of partners, and I think that the most important thing is to be transparent. It's to have a real relationship of trust. It's reversibility, and we mustn't take our data hostage, especially the data that belongs to the state, and that's not acceptable, because we can't give the resilience of the state to partners in whom we don't have a shared destiny. So that was very, very brief, very, very quick, and so I wish you all an excellent day. Thank you very much.
Bonjour.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Now, it's fantastic to see you all again for the 7th time for our OVHcloud Summit. 20 years already. 2 years ago, I said to you, for the 18 years of OVH, I lost 18 kilos. And now I'm saying for the 20 years, I've gained 20 kilos. And so for the next 30 years, I don't know, or for the 30 years. So joking aside, this project, We Host You, OVH, has become huge. 1.5 million customers, 2,200 colleagues, a CEO who is awesome, absolutely awesome, 380 physical servers, 1 million virtual servers throughout the world, 4 million websites, and we're continuing to grow and innovate. But at the same time, we have got the biggest competitor in the world there in front of us. But what more could we ask for? I think it's just fantastic. Now, I've got a question for you. Who amongst you has been a customer for 20 years? Put your hand up. Anybody? Okay. Cody Kendall. Who's been a customer for 15 years? 10 years? 5 years? 1 year? Fantastic. Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Well, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for having trusted us. Now, some of you for 20 years, as we've just seen. I'd like to thank you for having taken a chance on us. Some of you did it, I know, against all odds. I'd also like to thank you for having been with us, stayed with us, during the highs, during the lows. And I'd also like to thank you for being here today with us and to continue to work together with us as well. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, sometimes people ask me, which was the most difficult period you went through? And without hesitation, I think of the rollout of the data center in Canada, because we went to Montreal in September 2011. We started with an empty office, and thanks to the local partners, we built the data center very quickly. It was quickly operational, but what was the problem? Well, the problem was that no local operators wanted to sell us the fiber optics. And you can imagine a data center without connections, without a network, is a little bit like art rather than something that's operational. So it took 9 long months to take everyone or bring everyone back to the negotiating table so that we could sign with all of the networks, and then 6 long years to roll it out 100%. So it was just a huge job. And what was the best time in that, the best moment of it all? Well, if I were an entrepreneur, I would have dreamt of having customers like you, people who are kind but demanding, visionary, but also pragmatic at the same time, sometimes asking us to solve mathematical equations that lie somewhere between your needs and price, and sometimes it seems impossible, but I just love that. And when I wake up every morning, I realize that we have this opportunity and this responsibility to help you grow in the new digital world. And that, I think, is my biggest joy, and it's the joy that I experience every day. The old world is collapsing, and the new world is taking its place. And this new world is based on data. Everything is based on data. And it's in data that you will find the new gold, the new business model, the new values, the new services. And in order to extract that gold, we're going to use cloud computing. OVH is one of the rare global players for cloud computing, and it's the only European in the top 10 in the world. The best is to come. Thank you very much to all of our teams. Thank you very much to you, our partners. Thank you very much to you, our customers. Okay, let's talk about the future now. Let's talk about the strategy. This year, OVH has finished its 4th strategic plan. And over the last 5 years, between 2015 and 2019, we raised 250 million euros with 2 investment funds, 2 prestigious ones, KKR and Towerbrook. We invested 1.5 billion. We built 15 new data centers. We started our activities in the USA, and we also bought a company there. We started our activity in Asia, and we're continuing to innovate with new products based on the public cloud, but not only that. And we also started with the transformation of OVH towards OVHcloud with our 4 different universes. Today, we're starting with a new strategic plan for a new 5-year period between 2020 and 2024. And to talk about this, I'd like to invite Yona up onto the stage, who's in charge of strategy within OVHcloud. Hi, Yona. Hi, Octave. Let's talk about the strategy. Now, our strategy comes directly from our vision, doesn't it? Innovation for freedom. So tell us why we get up every morning to come to OVH. In OVH, we want to be an alternative player and an innovative player for the cloud throughout the world. We're proud of our European DNA, and we want to enable you to get the maximum out of your data, but at the same time keep your freedom. Okay, that's our why. That's our reason for being. That's where we want to go. And in order to do that, we've got 3 different principles or strategies. The first based on our culture, the second based on our customers, and the third based on the cloud. First of all, let's talk about our culture. Yes, the first strategic axis or strategy is our culture, because that's what defines us and that's what makes us different. Culture within OVHcloud is represented by 5 values that we share amongst the employees, with all of our partners, but also with our customers. And this culture can also be seen in the way in which we design our products. For us, freedom is not lock-in, it's not hidden costs, and we require complete, total transparency, and that's our smart concept. Okay, that's our culture. But what about the next 5 years? In the next 5 years, we're going to be going towards ecosystems, and we're going to try and have an angel culture with other players who also share these same values. Let's talk about the most important ones. So our customers, how to enable them to grow, and how can we find new customers? Well, as you know, at the moment, OVH is very much product-centric, and we want to recreate a balance so that we can become more customer-centric. And I think that there are 3 customer segments. First of all, we've got our digital customers, we've got our businesses, and then we've got what we call our wholesalers who want volume. And in order to make your customer experience more agreeable, more pleasant, we're investing in our interfaces and also our customer spaces. And we're also investing in our invoicing system. We're also going to be offering you different levels of support, which we hope will live up to your expectations. You were talking about new customers, and for new customers, we're going to continue to develop. We're going to be upgrading our teams and our data centers in Europe and in North America. And short term, we will be investing in Asia, in India, and our real ambition is to roll out in another 12 countries afterwards. Okay, so customers are our reason for being, and they're the reason why we get up in the morning. They're the people we work for, and in the next 5 years, we want to stay as close to them as possible. So now let's talk about our core, our products. Let's talk about the cloud. Now, as you know, OVHcloud is divided into 4 universes, and each of them has its own product development. Let's start with the market, and we're going to offer, with our ecosystem, about 100 different SaaS solutions via our marketplace, and we're going to be putting our customers in contact with our other customers. And then for our second universe, which is the server universe, we're going to be remaining a must for bare metal, but we're also working so that we can offer you a range of servers which would enable you to manage farms of 100 to 1,000 servers, but we're going to try and focus specifically on high availability. Now, in terms of the public cloud, we're going to focus on compatibility with the market standards. And we're also going to continue so that we can develop our service catalog. And then finally, enterprise. Now, for this last universe, we're going to be offering you the full catalog of public cloud services, but we're going to be working on a private environment, a private cloud which will be hosted with OVH, with about 50 different types of software, which will enable you to work on virtualization, also storage, databases, AI, or big data. And so we're going to continue to innovate, but throughout all of our universes. And of course, all of these cloud products are going to be available at the best cost and price. That is what we aim for. And we've based this or built this strategic plan with and for you. And I think we should continue with our discussions so that we can enhance this with your new expectations and so that we can understand your needs so that we can develop new products. Yes, we're going to continue to organize roundtables and boards so that we can gather your feedback from your partners and your customers. Okay, when I hear you, Yona, talking about this 5-year strategic plan, I get the impression that OVH is going to change in dimension, but at the same time, we're going to keep the ingredients that have made us so successful, and I just love that. Thank you very much, Yona. Thank you. Thanks, Octave.
L'année dernière,
Last year, I spoke to you about our virtual GAFAM, and it's an alternative method of operating between businesses so that we can create digital giants in Europe without necessarily the capitalistic links. Now, to talk about this in more concrete terms, I'd like to invite Olivier to come up onto the stage. He's the CEO of Mantoux.
bonjour Olivier, merci d'être.
Hello, Olivier. Thanks for coming with us today. Oh, hello, Tav. I discovered Mantoux about a year ago, and it's become something really crazy over the last 10 years. 6,500 people, 55 countries, 95 nationalities, several hundred millions of turnover. And can you tell us a little bit your vision for your company and also your role as a consultant? Well, Mantoux means the consultant or advisor in Sanskrit, because already in the 14th century, before the Common Era, they understood the importance of the relationship between the advisor and the advised. And we believe that an enterprise is a human adventure, and it's that human adventure that makes the world move forward. And that's why entrepreneurs today are the main levers for transformation in society today. And I believe that the 19th century was a century of empires. The 20th century was one of the nation state, and the 21st century will be that of corporations or enterprises. And it's not because the giants of Silicon Valley, or we often forget it, or the other side of the planet in China, it's not because those enterprises have become more powerful than the nation states, but rather because the new generations that are arriving today, some of them are here today in the room, and they're among your clients, Octave, and among our customers. They have placed all their hopes, all their dreams, all their expectations in the enterprise. And we cannot imagine an enterprise today as the only place for the creation of wealth or economic growth. That's what we're working on with Mantoux and the group, is to accompany our customers on all of the different transformations that this implies. All enterprises today must reinvent themselves. They must rethink why they are there. They have to think about the way in which they connect with the world. They need to think about how they can integrate these new generations who can reinvent new models. They have to rethink their business model. They need to rethink their technological and industrial model as well, and they have to rethink innovation, how to create, how to build. And they have to also rethink the way in which customers will connect with their ecosystems through digital marketing. All of this is what we do today with the group to accompany our customers. And indeed, all the enterprises that we have in our group today share the same mission, and that is to reveal and increase a community of talents to whom we're going to give the taste and the love of achieving and achieving the ambitions of our customers. And this is something that we share with Octave, and this is the long-term vision, because the long term today, and we believe in this, we believe that the sustainable growth of the economy will go through projects, industrial projects that will be long-term projects led by entrepreneurs who will have the concern for future generations, but at the same time have the determination of the great builders of yesteryear. I agree totally with what you're saying, and there are certain words that really struck me: entrepreneurship, long-term independence. When I talked about those, the virtual GAFAM projects, I was talking with John Chambers, the Cisco CEO, former CEO, and he said, Octave, never underestimate the difficulties of doing new things, especially in a partnership. And yet, I believe there's a real need, a real expectation to reinvent collaboration between companies, not just within companies, but between enterprises. And here in Europe, we believe that in order to continue to grow, we must not necessarily multiply vertical silos or change things that are moving or become a monopoly or a conglomerate. I think here in Europe, we really want and need to invent a new model that we can bring to life. I agree 100%. Today, we cannot allow Europe to become a digital colony because we were not able to create the giants that are necessary, that are needed to fight the American or Chinese hegemony. And it's true that the size of our internal markets do not allow us to do the same thing as what's being done in America or China. And yet, and I believe that we share this belief, we have in Europe a multiplicity of cultures. We have all of the means we need to succeed. We have talents, unbelievable talents that allow us to really fight. And with the group, we were able to prove this. We opened 55 countries in less than 10 years that show that within Europe and through Europe, we can compete with the Silicon Valley giants and the giants throughout the world. And Octave, you've proved that with technology, we can compete with an Amazon or an Azure. And today, with Azure, we can compete with Amazon. And we need to create this ecosystem. And when you see this notion of gratuity, and it hides this notion of global monopolies, and when this notion of good intentions hides a sinister motive, and here within Europe, we have to create this community of values, this ecosystem where, for example, we can talk with banks, and we can create together an ecosystem where talents can evolve, in which we can recreate what we had, which was our secret ingredient when we created our group, was to create this multiplicity of talents, and in order to hunt together, to fight together, to compete together. And we, as entrepreneurs, this is what we have with Octave, and we here in the room, we can all work together to create that ecosystem to compete against those big giants. And we have to trust in ourselves, and I believe in that. Yes, and in talking about this with Olivier, at a certain point we said, I think what we need is a European back office, a digital back office that's European, where we can find, just like you might find on the shelf, solutions on all of the needs or problems that the European companies have, or companies in general have, when they go out into this new digital world. And so we said to ourselves, that's where we want to go. That's our vision. That's our dream. How can we build this? How can we move towards this together? We're going to do it in the old-fashioned way, in an entrepreneurship. And so what project will we do together? And so we imagined a POC where we looked at how we could build a brick and see what are the other bricks we need. So it's true. When you have two entrepreneurs that talk together, it's usually good in concrete terms. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? How do we do this? And so And so when I was talking about the 1400 years before Jesus Christ, but as they say, you have to render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And so in talking with Octave, we said, okay, today we're going to work on a proof of concept, APOC, and where we're going to say, okay, we're going to mutualize our teams, our talents, and we're going to think about how we can build up an enterprise social network and put these solutions on the market and look at what exists and provide an alternative to the American solutions on the constitution of an enterprise social network and a platform that would meet the needs of European enterprises. And so this is the idea, is not just to develop a social network, but rather to see who is part of this ecosystem, who can provide those services that we need. Can we work at 3, with 4, and bring together all of these services onto the market more quickly and allow our 5 million customers to benefit from these new services, and then also to help those who already have services, but to help them grow together. And so behind all of this, behind this time to market, accelerating the development, we're going to look for other needs, other verticals, so that maybe in 5-10 years, we might 5,000 companies within that ecosystem, where through all of the companies within the ecosystem, we can find all the things that companies need in terms of digital services. And so what can we offer? How will this work? How will this system work? It's a little bit, as you said, it's a sort of connovation. It's a co-development. It's bringing things to market more quickly with products that are at critical space for the customers. So what else can we do? Monitoring, mentoring. How can we share with companies and help them grow? I think that you've experienced the same things that I've experienced. Building a company from 3 million to 30 million. It's not the same thing bringing it up to 300 million. And so we have to provide consulting and advising but at the same time, we have to say, okay, there's only one last thing that we have to do. I hope one day there's a Google or somebody else might buy me out. No, I think that through this ecosystem, we could show that there is a third way, a European way, built around an ecosystem. So what can we do together? We talked about that. We can raise capital, and also in terms of jobs. If we share the same values, the same mission, and share the same dream, so whether the employees work for this company or that company, if they say they're better somewhere else, but they still remain within that ecosystem and they help that ecosystem to grow, for me, that's great. And so around that idea, we're going to launch in concrete terms. We're going to do the POC, the proof of concept. We're going to see who's on the market. And so very quickly, I hope we'll be able in the coming months to bring the first fruits of our collaborative labor onto the market. So Olivier, thank you very much for coming. I know you had a lot of meetings. You had to cancel a lot of meetings to be here today. But I'm very excited by what we're going to do together, because I really have the impression that we're going to try, and I hope succeed, to show that there is a third way. Not just the American way, or where it's a lot based on investments and probability, and so maybe the Chinese way, where it's more state-based. But maybe with our values here in Europe, we can build a real community, a real ecosystem, a real third way. Thank you, Olivier.
Now, a year ago, Michel joined us, and he took over as DG of OVH. Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. I'm so pleased. And I was able, therefore, to do lots of other things. And I went to the United States with my family. We decided to live in Dallas. Hang on, let me say that again. We went to live in Dallas in Texas. And so we now live over there. And I started working with the American teams, and I worked on our corporate culture, because there are so many cultural differences between America, Europe, OVH. I mean, it's really interesting. But at the same time, we also worked on how we could be successful in the United States. At the same time, over 6 months, I must have had 80 appointments with various different companies, small, medium-sized, big partners, competitors, and we talked about our strategy, our vision, and at the same time, we tried to listen and watch. For example, VegaFam, what type of feedback were we getting from other people? And also, I started to be a little bit more technical again, started using the technology, starting coding again. That was absolutely fantastic. And very quickly, we said to ourselves, okay, I've got too many ideas. I've got to go back. And so with my family, 6 months later, we found ourselves on the other side of the Atlantic again. And I worked in our production site in Croix, and where we're experimenting with data centers. And with the teams, we try to imagine what our future products could be, the successes for OVH. And so we worked on artificial intelligence. We worked on storage for the future, big data, databases, really fantastic subjects. And I'm going to come back to them very quickly with you so that we can have a few talks, have a little bit of feedback so that we can enrich them with your ideas. And that's what we're currently doing at the moment. And then at the same time, I was looking at how all of these different worlds were evolving under the pressure of digital transformation and what the impact was of this digital transformation on our lives. And one of the subjects which is really close to my heart is that of education. Education is one of the biggest challenges with digital transformation. And it's not something that only concerns businesses, it concerns our entire society. The state covers the education of our children, but who's going to look after the training of adults? And in order to talk about this, I'd like to invite Henry to come up onto the stage. He is the DG of Ex-Metal, and Thierry, who is in charge of Speechy. Hello, Henry. Hello, Thierry. Thank you very much for coming here to be with us yet again this morning. Henri, before I ask you that first question, just a quick story here. Last time I was in the train, somebody came up to me and we were having a chat, and he said to me, I saw your brother, Henry. I think he was talking about you. So my brother is Miro, and Henry is my father, and so it made me feel so old. I felt ancient, and it was only when I was preparing this meeting that I realized it, because with this old 20-year company, OVHcloud, I'm here with this 70-year-old entrepreneur who said, I've got an idea, I'm going to create a company. And so, Henri, if you could maybe talk about your latest creation, maybe talk about your latest company. What is it exactly? Well, it came like that, 2 years ago. We realized together that OVH, which is still producing equipment and infrastructure. Look, I've got OVH on my T-shirt. We make all of this, but I think we've got to go a step above that. We've got to be more sophisticated in terms of our equipment, security, prices, etc. And following that, we realized that there was no other solution than to create a company that would be able to produce all of the things that we need. So a very modern company, very well equipped, with the best machines available in the world, with top-level engineering, which is going to require a lot of money, because you have to be able to buy the machines, digital machines with robots, automated, and all of that costs a lot of money. And so obviously that means that you have to have a lot of money either yourself, or you have to have the trust of the banks. And thank you very much to all of the banks that have supported us for this project. And so we started to create a business outside OVH, because when you invest so much money with only one customer, it's very difficult to make the company viable from a financial point of view, because it's an external growth. And so we created Ex-Metal, who has got OVH as a customer, but other companies as well. So what do you do exactly then in this company? What's the aim of the company? Well, in this company, above all, we've got to produce all of the things that OVH needs. So we make metal structures. We have an engineering department for cooling structures. We have engineering services as well for climate control. All of the industrial engineering aspects of what we do in OVH, but that's top level, and all of that is based on metal processing. And we have to cut sheets of metal. In order to do that, we have to have lasers, robots. After that, we have to bend the sheets, but with robots yet again. And all of that has to be assembled as well with a sophisticated laser welding system. And all of that obviously requires very sophisticated equipment. And so how much did you invest and how many jobs did you create? We invested about 10 million euros to start with. That was the seed fund, so we could create 20 jobs. And that's about 500,000 per job. So you created that company. And after that, what did you do? What type of people were you looking for? Engineers, technicians? What was the type of profile of the people who worked for you? Now, this might shock you a bit, but I decided to have a bit of a challenge. I looked for people who were out there in the street, people who were unemployed, people who had no experience, people who had a completely empty CV, empty resume, and I said that I would train them for these new technologies. Okay, it costs a lot of money. It does cost a lot of money. I contacted the job center, and they are based in Croix, and they provide services for 4 or 5 surrounding towns. And they found about 20 people, and I started to train them so that they could work with very sophisticated machinery. Now, when I say that these people had nothing on their CVs, they learned how to program, they learned how to manage the machines, operate the machines, they learned how to do the maintenance and organize our production. And today, they have become very professional. They arrived 18 months ago, and now we have a company which is very sophisticated, state-of-the-art, which has OVH as a customer, but I think that we could very easily, with those people, find other customers. We've already got about 20 other customers. And so when we were talking about this experience, because you've been very successful with these 20 people, I was wondering how many people, how many other people who are 20, 25 years old, who are unemployed, who don't have any training in Croix, Roubaix, Tourcoing, in that area. How many people do you think there are? How many would you estimate? Now, I think it's a serious situation because there are 1,200 people, young people between the age of 20 and 25. And so if ever we want to be able to offer half of them, 600 people a job, then, you can calculate that. You'd require 300 million euros, 600 jobs, 300 million. And so there's that ratio of 500,000 in order to get the ball rolling. Now, when we looked at this, we said that's a lot of people. But at the same time, I looked at it from an OVH point of view. We started with nothing. You started with 10 million. And in OVH, we started with nothing, and we invested over 20 years 2.5 billion so that we could create 2,500 jobs. So that's 1 million per workstation. Now, you've got 500 million, and you're saying to yourself, okay, to create a digital factory in this new digital world, you need investments of about 500,000, a million for each workstation. But it's possible. It's possible because OVH exists. And it's possible after that because your company exists. With those behind those 20 people, maybe we're going to scale this up as maybe we'll have 100, 200, maybe we'll get to 2,000. And so via Henry's presentation here, I just wanted to show you 2 things. I just wanted to explain that people who are unemployed in this new digital world, well, I think there's a place for them. And then secondly, the equations that might sometimes seem impossible to solve because the amounts of money seem so huge. There are so many counterexamples where we can create things which will continue to give us growth. And so there are so many things out there. And that's what I wanted to share with you as well. Now, Henry was talking about training. Now, Thierry, let's talk about training together because you created Speechy. What is Speechy and what do you do? Yes, I created Speechy 15 years ago. The aim initially was to improve education using digital technologies. We started with software, and little by little, we now have our main product, which is a giant interactive screen, which replaces old blackboards or whiteboards that had markers. And we also realized that companies, businesses really did appreciate, they liked our giant board, and they use it to communicate. They put it in meeting rooms and boardrooms, and there are far more boardrooms than there are classrooms, but we sell far more to businesses than we do to schools at the moment. 2 years ago, we brought out another project, something that we'd started on in 2014, and the aim was to teach IT to children using small robots. It's called Algora, the Algora schools, and so we use these robots so that we can motivate children who find it fun, amusing, motivating, and it's a very good way of enabling children to learn more. Okay, so thanks to these robots, what you're doing is you're training children so that they can learn how to program, code, etc. Yes, they learn about code, and they learn how to use programs and interfaces that were designed by other people, like Windows, Word, Facebook. And the idea is to open up the machines, open up the programs, enable children to understand how everything works, the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts, so that they can then design their own programs and their own user interface, and they start with their own robot. Okay, so when we started talking about this, you spoke to me about that the first time. I said, Thierry, robots for adults, I need those. What about them? Now, today, we train children from 6 to 14 years of age. There are about 50 robots that have now been developed, and a child can study for about 4 years, and there's one robot per month. But we realized that adults liked robots too. And so most of the adults haven't been trained either. They don't know anything about IT, and so they discover this digital revolution without really understanding what it means. They don't know how a Tesla car works. They don't know how Google works or Siri works, and they don't know why a computer would beat a world chess champion easily. And so in a way, they're missing out on this digital revolution. And so the program that we have created reaches out to people who don't know anything about IT, and they're not going to use it as their profession in the future. But the paradox is that today there won't only be IT specialists in the future, but if we don't master the basic principles of IT, especially when we talk about deep learning, then we don't understand the rest of the world. And we can't have new ideas either, because we can't have ideas that will be useful at work, and we can no longer be creative either. So our aim is to try and develop this program so that people who are not in IT can understand the world of the future and therefore have an impact upon it. Because at the end of the day, either we will be programmed or we'll know how to program. Now, so, yes, I think you can give him a round of applause. And so when we have a look at this digital revolution and us as a whole, I think we can see opportunities, but there are so many people who see this as a threat. So they see it as a threat because they don't understand the basics of this new world. They don't understand how it all works. They don't understand how data works. You were talking about deep learning and so many other technologies that at the end of the day, when you look at them, they're not that complicated. And as an entrepreneur, obviously, we think about all of these ideas and we think about scaling ideas. And we were thinking about a company where we could have training sessions in companies, and for companies that need to go through a transformation and they need to be able to master this new digital world. And so I think that we need more skills, and that's something that you've shown us, Henry. You've been training people on robotics, IT, automation, etc. But there's also another requirement as well. People need to know how they can work in this new environment, how they can exchange information, and how this world will work so that data can really be extracted and that we can use the information that we need. And so you've got a company in which we can train people on the one hand, we can train them in businesses and at the same time earn money. And then after that, you can reinvest all of that profit so that we can train people who are on the sidelines, people who are unemployed, people who don't have a job or an activity of any form. And so they don't have the foundations upon which they can build and learn this whole new world, which is currently coming in like a big high-speed train, and it's roller coaster. And so that's an idea that I wanted to share with you, because there's no patent for these ideas. We have to create lots of companies like this where we're going to be able to train not just 1,000, 10,000, or 100,000 per year. The idea is there are so many needs out there, and it's one of the main concerns. It's one of the main issues, I think, in our society today. And as a European, we've really got to think about this as a community, and businesses have got to take this on board too. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thierry. Thank you very much, Henri, for telling us about your experiences. Thank you. Are we rocking?
For the last 7 years, I have taken great pleasure in playing guitar in front of you, in front of 3,000 people. Okay, the concert is free, but you know, what can I say? But this year, I wanted to innovate and do something a little different. In music, what I love is composing and creating. It's my entrepreneurial side. And so, what I like is to apply to music the processes that we use internally, the 13715, to create new products. And so in my way of working, I have a lot of POCs, a lot of alphas, I have 6 or 7 betas, and maybe someday all of that will enter into production in prod on an album. Who knows? So today what I'd like to do is play a piece that even before this summer was still in a POC mode, a proof of concept mode. This summer I asked Bruno Chéneau, the producer, to create an alpha. And so we went to the studio. We looked at how we could assemble this this piece and give it body, and then I tested the piece in bars this summer just to see how the customers reacted, to see if it had an impact, and it was an incredible experience. And we improved the piece, and so today I think this piece is now in its beta version, and I want to get your feedback for this piece. The piece is called Libère-toi, free yourself. So it's freedom. It's all about. I don't think you can miss the message, but anyway, thank you for your feedback, and over to the musicians.
Marie.
Marie Tangal, thank you very much.
Restez.
Please stay. So, thank you for coming. Please benefit from the OVHcloud Summit. There's a lot of sessions for this afternoon that have been planned. This evening, there is a concert planned. You're all invited. I think it's good. I think we're going to rip it up. It's going to be some rock this evening. And please talk amongst yourselves, discuss about your projects, talk with our teams, but also talk amongst yourself. That's the whole objective of this summit. That's what we're trying to push and promote, is so that this ecosystem becomes a reality. So thank you very much. Enjoy the summit.